fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. This is our 145th show. My name is Rosemary Lachance. I'm an energy healer and a spiritual therapist.
And I'm Barbara Slaine, Director of the Life Balance Center and founder of myhealingrooms.com.
We are the co-hosts for this thought-provoking series and are dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their field. If you know of any subjects that you would like us to discuss, or if you know of anyone who you think would make a good guest, interesting guest, please let us know. Please like the show on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box, where you can learn about and see pictures of our guests and ask questions or leave a comment. Enjoy the show. Tonight we have with us Roland Comtois.
We are so excited to have
Welcome,
Roland.
Roland.
Thank you.
We are
Thank
really
you.
excited to have you
Welcome.
back again. We're going to talk a little bit about Roland.
Okay.
Tell his little bio, a short bio.
Roland is an internationally acclaimed channel, best-selling speaker, and author of And Then There Was Heaven, and A Journey of Hope and Love, and 16 Minutes, When One Breath Ends and Another Begins. A compelling and inspirational speaker, Roland has captivated audiences worldwide with his uncanny ability to connect with the spiritual realm, sharing personalized messages that have the power to heal the soul. Hi, Roland.
Hi there. Thank you.
Hi. The first question we always ask, and we're asking you again, is when did you first realize your life's calling?
You know, I've been on a mission for what seems for eternity, discovering that life mission. When I was a young kid, I would feel things and sense things and had these moments that could not be defined by any language that I understood. But I felt it, I embraced it, and I understood it. So, you know, it goes back to when I was 5 years old and 6 years old and 10 years old, having these moments that were so extraordinary that they nearly, even as a young kid, took my breath away, feeling the presence of something so magnificent and so beautiful.
That's wonderful. That really is. Okay.
I've been in the room with Roland when you've worked, and I can feel the angels, and I see how inspired you are, and I hear your messages, and there's no doubt that you are connected. What are some of the events in your life that have led you, that have kind of opened you up on this journey as a spiritual medium?
You know, there was a time when I was a young kid that I saw my grandmother after she passed away, and I realized that there was something else, that there was something more. I realized that I was a thread in this magnificent tapestry somehow. I understood that there was something else. As a young guy, I would have these feelings, and I would call my friends, and I'd say, okay, it's 7 o'clock, I got to talk to you guys. I have something I have to share with you. And I'd start giving messages to my friends, and it goes on from one experience to another where there have been so many moments that have defined. But, you know, I wanted to share with you, there was one very powerful moment when I was a nurse, and I was sitting with my patient, and she was getting ready to pass away. And she looked at me, she was still speaking, and she said, you know, I'm afraid of what will happen next. And I sat with her, and I took her hand, and I felt this amazing energy. I felt this peace. I felt this love. And I said, you have to do nothing at all, but just breathe, and just be here with me, and it will be all right. She passed away, and this gentleness came through that room. And I'll never forget her. You know, you asked me about a defining moment in my life. That was a defining moment in my life. There are many of them. And by the way, we all have defining moments in our lives that prompt us to take the next step somehow. That was one of them for me.
Well, the title of tonight's show is what is the difference between religion and spirituality? And so regarding this topic, we want to discuss this right now. So we're going to ask some questions of you that were asked of us, and you can tell us questions that were asked of you.
Yes.
And the first one is, What is the difference between religion and spirituality?
You know, everything I've researched, everything that I've checked out, they all say they can't define religion. That we understand it to be a set of rules and regulations, a doctrine, a set of rituals that teaches us how to make a connection, teaches us how to experience our faith. But I think of myself, right, as a 16-year-old kid when I was directing the Singing Hearts Choir as a kid, or directing the church choir. I would sit in that church and I would guide these people into singing these songs. What I understood was that that place was a place where I could, in that moment, experience my faith. I don't think that you can live a spiritual life without understanding that aspect of the journey. I think one is the foundation for another. When I think about spiritual life, the spirituality of it all, it's this amazing inner exploration. It's going within yourself and recognizing that you are part of something so beautiful and so magnificent. And so one to me is the experience on the outside world. One is the experience on the inner world. It's the experience of making a spiritual connection to expand and to grow and to learn and to become who you're meant to be. You know, the interesting aspect of this is that in both the religious experience and in the spiritual experience, I think God exists. I think God is there. I think in the religious experience, they tell us how to experience God, right? They
Right.
tell us
Yes.
how or what he looks like or she looks like or what to see or what to feel or what to experience. On a spiritual journey, you make that discovery through your life experiences. You make it in these most profound moments of your life. You feel the presence of God. You realize that it's not defined by one religion or one experience, that it's much bigger and much greater.
That's a great definition, I think. It's really a great definition. So someone like, say, myself, who was Catholic, left the church, but I consider myself very spiritual. I believe in God and Christ and angels and all those experiences, spirit, but yet I don't belong to any religious group.
Well, when you
So-
walk into a church, it isn't the walls that make that church something. It's
Right.
the heart and soul of the person sitting in that pew or in that temple or in that synagogue who makes that experience profound. You know, it really is
You're right.
about finding that aspect of
The
you.
heart.
You know, it is.
The heart and the love. I mean, I was born Jewish, and my parents, we had some rituals. There was no heart in it. And when I was 15 and I went away, someone introduced me to Jesus Christ. And I ended up accepting him at that time into my life because it spoke to my heart.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the Jewish tradition, the way I was taught it, didn't. And so there's so many roads to
right.
our own
Yes.
spirituality.
You know, there was a moment when I was sitting in the church a long time ago, and there was a time when we all started to recite the Our Father. I realized that when I was sitting there, people were speaking, but they weren't experiencing.
Oh, yeah.
They were sitting there saying the words, reciting something, but they weren't going inside the words. They weren't going inside that inner sanctuary to really take a piece of what that's telling us, you know? Or when they say, peace be with you, someone turns to you, but they're not invested in that moment. At that second, I said, this is not where I belong. I want to be in a place that celebrates the heart and the soul. I want to be in a place that opens up the possibility and the reality that in this moment, it's all possible. It's all real.
I felt the same way in churches listening to
Yeah.
to those mumbling of the prayers and the same exact thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
But in a way, when I've seen you at your events, you've almost created your own spiritual sanctuary,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
and so in a way, you're not really, now it's your own spiritual mission and you carry that with you.
Yes.
I mean, do you go to church now or is it something that you've
You know,
embodied?
church comes to me.
Right.
It comes to me. It comes to me when I look at my 22-year-old daughter who's having a rough time. It comes to me when my friend calls me and she says, I need a little extra help. It comes to me when someone Facebooks me and says, "Look, my father passed away, and I need some support." I start praying for that person. I start thinking about that person. Church comes to me when I'm driving my car on 95 and there's an accident on the road, and you start thinking and sending energy and love. That's when I experience church. That's when I experience
That's a
church.
good explanation, because I read a long time ago, church is wherever two or more are gathered in my name. That's church.
You know what? When you are there in that place and you are connected to that divine source within yourself, you are automatically connected to that universal energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's present. It's present. It's present when I'm sitting outside in my yard saying a little prayer. That energy is present.
You're right, absolutely.
So ideally, it's great if we could embrace it every second of every day, not when we go into a church
Right.
twice a year or a temple, but that we're the living we're living and breathing it, like you
Yes.
said, in our conscious efforts and how we talk to people
And I
and
think-
how we act, acts of kindness.
And I think you should also, recognize that if you're not feeling it in that precise moment, don't get into an argument with yourself. Don't
Good
judge
point.
yourself and say, "Oh, God, I'm a bad Christian," or
Good.
"I'm a bad Jewish person." That's not how this works. It's about self-love, self-care, nurturing. Because if you do those things, you will be the brightest light, and you will be able to transform the world that you live in.
That's a great point.
Beautiful.
Great. Some of the questions, one of the questions that people have asked is, will God still love me if I don't go to church?
God loved you before you started.
That's what I
God loved you when you take the next step. God loves you when maybe it was God that said leave the church.
thought. Right.
Maybe it was someone whispering in your ear
Right.
to do something. So, I don't think it's God that defines the church. It's the church that tries to define God. And so, yeah, it's God. And by the way, if someone out there wants to say angel, spirit, universe, God, goddess, whatever word they use to describe that higher self, then do it. Whatever works for you, do it. As long as you're living compassionately, with unconditional love, operating from the heart, then you are going to achieve and do great things.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
So in the name of religion, there's been so much awful things have happened, so many tragedies, because people want to claim it as their own and they want to own it. So what we're saying is however you get to God, and that God within you is really what it's about, is what
Yes.
you're saying.
It is
It's
what I'm saying.
the self-spirituality.
It is what I'm saying, that it's in you. However you define God to be, you make that decision. You make that decision. And however you define that, then you begin this experience of living that experience, that divine spiritual journey, that inner exploration.
Mm-hmm. How do we pray?
Now, you're not going to believe this,
Okay.
but I get this question a lot.
Right.
And, my answer is this. A prayer is an inner conversation, right? It's an inner dialogue with that higher power, that universal energy. And so when I pray, I don't say, I may do this, I may open my arms, but I'm going to say, hey, God, I got to talk to you.
Right.
I need to tell you something. I need support. One of the things that happens with prayer, though, we find ourselves focused on the negative. We say, I'm sick today. I'm unsettled. My leg hurts. I don't have my life where it should be. Instead of saying, I am ready. I am prepared. I am this. I am that. We get into this other space. So you want to talk to God? Talk. Have a conversation. Just talk.
Any place, anytime,
place,
anywhere.
maybe not in the mall in front of 1,000 people,
No.
but any other place. Have the conversation. Have this inner dialogue, because prayer is this inner something that happens. And the second you go there, look, if we tried it right now, if we went there right now, something can happen. We go back inside ourselves. We begin to find our truth. We begin to see that within us something magnificent is radiant and alive by going here. If you tried it right now, something could happen. You start to feel better. You start to feel connected. You'd start to feel engaged in your life. You'd start to feel a breath of fresh air, and you'd be ready to take the next step somehow.
You're right. You're right.
You know, Carolyn Mace talks about two things, and I wonder what you think. One is when you pray to get our human self out of the way a little bit, to let God, take over. And then to also always offer gratitude, too. Because if we go with the whole laundry list, so what are your feelings about prayer and gratitude?
I have a lot to say about all this. I think prayer allows us to reconnect to our human kindness, our loving, unconditional love, our loving kindness. It gives us a chance to embrace that aspect of who we are. We know that every person has a spark of divinity within them. We know that when they sit there and they get in that space, that divinity erupts, becomes this ripple effect of something very magnificent. Mm-hmm. So it's human kindness. We touch the spark, the light within ourselves when we're there, right? It ignites this energy within us. Yes, you've got to be grateful. You've got to be grateful for your life, no matter what your life presents you. Because I believe, you don't need to believe me because I've said it, right? Truth isn't because I've said it. Truth is because something happened inside of you.
Resonates in me, yeah.
Happened in you, and when it happened, you changed. Mm-hmm. So the truth is what makes you feel good, what makes you feel alive in that particular moment. But I was going to say that God is in the challenge. God is in the resolution. God is in the obstacle. God is you climbing the mountain. And it's spirit guiding you forward. And it's the universe whispering in your ear. And it's that divine energy supporting you. It's all of that. I've lived my life by that creed, by that understanding, that it's all of that.
It's everything.
It's all of that. It's absolutely all of that. When I was 10 years old, my father left my mother. And when I was 19 years old, I made it past my depression or sadness or grief over that. And when I was 40-something years old, I went to him and I said, Dad, I forgive you for leaving us. In that second, I understood that God was there, or spirit, or angel, or energy was there when I was 10. Was there when I climbed my mountains. Was there when I let go. And it was there when I said, Dad, I forgive you. Spirit was in all of that. The challenge, the joy, the relief, the freedom, the obstacle, everything.
Everything.
It's in everything.
That's right. To me, this is one big school, Earth,
yes,
where we learn and learn and learn.
Yeah. You're here for several reasons in this life. You're here to learn. You're here to grow. You're here to evolve. And you're here to love. And if you achieve these things, you will achieve great things in your life.
And I want to add one more thing. We're here to remember who we are.
Perfect.
Divine.
Perfect.
And we remember that. We act that way.
Well,
right?
you're a spark of divinity.
Yeah.
You are.
Uh-huh.
So are they.
Yep.
And everybody else around us.
Right.
Our job, your job, even on this show, is to get someone to remember that essence of who they are, the truth of who they are, that spark that lives inside of them. Because when that spark shines, oh my God, it's amazing.
I know.
It's absolutely amazing.
It is. When somebody finally gets it, there's no better feeling for me in the world.
It's amazing. Can you help to guide people or tell people how to get that spiritual experience? You talked about prayer, but that was one of the questions that Rosemary has. How do you get it other than prayer?
Here's the first step. Stop asking questions. Stop talking. Stop worrying. Stop getting lost. Just be silent. Be silent. Own your silence. Own your silence. Sit in your silence. See the silence as an experience of reverence. Be there as if you're sitting in this magnificent temple. Be in that space, because that space will afford amazing opportunities for you. There's no secret answer here about how to create a spiritual practice. If I was your spiritual doctor, I'd take out my prescription pad and I'd say, number one, sit in silence. Until you have acquired and become familiar with silence, I would say stay there for a while. Second, I would then begin this inner dialogue, have this conversation. Third, I would define what I wanted my spiritual journey to be. What part of that. A church, a temple, sitting in a beautiful garden, you define where that space is. From there, you will do magnificent things, but you've got to find the silence first.
You think meditation helps with that?
I do. And I'm not talking about meditation and being a guru and
No,
sitting there for
yeah.
17 hours. And 17 hours later, you're someplace. I'm talking about right now. I used to tell my clients, I want you to give yourself a 60-second spiritual workout. 60 seconds. Come on. Commit 60 seconds to silence. 60 seconds to gratitude. 60 seconds to seeing this thread, this beautiful golden thread of light that you are, connecting all of us together. Do those things, and something will happen. Something wonderful will happen.
You're right. You're right.
They say, ask and you shall receive.
Yeah,
Right? It's kind
really,
of simple. I mean,
really.
You're right.
Ask and you shall receive, right? You ask those things. You do that. You practice that. The next step is you have to allow. Ask and you shall receive. But what if you don't allow the experience to come to you, right? What if you don't allow it? What
We're
if you
so
resist
busy.
it? You're
Yeah.
busy, you're thinking, you're worried, you're watching TV and you're seeing the chaos, you're worried about getting your kids off to school and all these things. Can I share a little story with you?
Of course.
I was doing a Reiki session on a client of mine more than 15 years ago, and he was on the table, and I was feeling the energy. It was beautiful. It was magnificent, right? And all of a sudden, I started thinking about my daughter. I said, oh my God, I got to get her off the bus. Oh my God, I got to make her supper. I've got things to do. At some point, the guy got off the table, and he says, I know this is going to sound strange to you, but something happened through that session. It felt like you totally disappeared. I lost my focus, my intention. I allowed myself to become the worry, this tension. And that was the only thing that existed, was that energy at that moment. It was a great lesson to really find that focus. It's part of your spiritual practice to do so.
The focus, you're right. That's
Yep.
so important. And what you focus on, because we've talked about energy and vibration, is what can often manifest.
Yeah, it's conscious.
Right?
The minute you think it, it's done.
I know.
The
It's
minute
so
you
crazy
think
if you
it-
don't realize that. It just...
It's written everywhere. Everyone has studied this. The minute you think it, it is there. In the old days, I would write on my website, I'm coming to Frederick, Maryland. I've never heard of the place, but I put it anyways. 2 years later, I'm presenting in Frederick, Maryland. I don't know how it happened, other than I owned that feeling in that moment. I believed it when I felt it. I owned it. And when I did, that conscious energy became a reality in my life. We all have that power. I mean, look, there's no book that says Roland Comtois has the something, or it says everybody has a gift.
Oh, forget it. I'm out of here.
Yeah, everybody has a gift. Everybody has the ability. It doesn't say one person. It says everybody.
They do, but some have, we talked about this, some more than others. Some see spirits, hear things. And
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah, I know you keep going back
Well,
to that.
you are special. I mean,
I hear you, but I can tell you that in you lives this energy. And if you put your focus and your attention and energy into it,
yeah.
then it will grow. It will grow. It
You're
certainly
right.
will.
You're
It
right.
will grow.
Depends on how much you studied.
That's it.
You may have studied a lot on the other side, when you were in spirit or
Yes.
in past lifetime.
Yes.
And you were really prepared when you came.
Yes.
I too saw spirit when I was a kid, so I must have studied and whatever.
Yes.
And yet life catches up with you sometimes too, and you go away from it,
It is.
and then you
But
come
who's
back.
in charge?
Yeah.
Who's in charge? Is it love or is it fear? If it's
Right,
fear, if it is fear, then you don't have a right to complain if you choose fear.
Right.
Choose love. Love changes the course. Really, I'm not just talking it.
It's
No.
a vibration.
It's
It's,
a
an
vib-
actual
yes, it's
existing,
an
the vibration
energy.
of fear versus love.
It's an energy. It's part of our spiritual practice.
Right.
It's part of our
culture.
spiritual energy.
So you don't have to go to church to pray then.
No, I don't. I
at all.
don't. I mean, I love going to churches and I love going to temples. And I've been to my first synagogue recently. I haven't been there in the 50-something years I've been around, but I went there. It was magnificent. That feeling when everybody is finally all in unison at one moment and they're chanting.
It's beautiful.
So beautiful. When you feel it, you know that you've touched heaven. You've touched something magnificent. So you don't have to go to a church to have that experience.
I've had people say to me, for instance, Catholic, okay, I left the church and I don't believe in God anymore. Why not? Well, because I left the church and that's where he is. And,
Yeah.
I try to say, no, that's not where he is.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
I've heard it 1,000 times. Yeah. It's not defined, God, again, we're back to, it's religion trying to define God. And then they say to us, well, God sits in this box. And the only way for you to find God is to go to this box. I'm telling you that to find that inner energy, that God energy, that divine energy, get out of the box. See life as it truly should be.
Nature is the
Yeah.
biggest.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, nature's a sanctuary. It's
It
a
is.
temple. But you said something really important in the beginning. If the person, whatever religion it is, Hindu, Jewish, Christian, has that love of God in their heart, they're bringing that with them, and people pick it up.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily the dwelling or the doctrine. I
Right.
mean, but the doctrine is important too, right? I guess what the Bible says, or what the Quran says, or what all these religions say. I mean, they're good principles.
Yes, they mean well.
Right.
They mean well, and they provide us with structure. And at some point, look, we know, and I'm not picking on the Catholics, I'm Catholic. The Catholic Church has changed, and there have been a lot of people leaving the Catholic Church. Why? I don't know all the answers, but I know that what they do provide us is a structure.
Right.
But they don't take us beyond the structure.
Right.
They don't let us soar. They don't let us fly. They tell us that it's not right that you have a feeling that Jesus is in your heart. They tell us that only certain people can have those
Yes,
experiences.
yes.
I'm going to say something too, and maybe you may not like it, but I'm going to tell you that I don't think God lives up there. I don't think that God lives across the street. I don't think God lives next door. I think God lives here. I think God lives in there. I think God absolutely lives in you and lives in you. That's where God is.
That's right.
It's there. He, she, whatever is there. And that's what I understand. And that's what my life has taught me. Do I love going to sing my Amazing Grace in the Catholic churches? Absolutely. Do I love sitting with a group of Native Americans as they chant their welcoming songs? Absolutely. Do I love hearing the cantor chant or sing? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's another aspect of my spiritual experience.
So if God is in us,
Yes.
when we're praying, are we praying to the God in all of us, to that kind of accumulated, that universal God, or to the God within us, or both?
It's the same.
I think it's one and the
yeah,
same.
it's one and the
Okay.
same.
Can I just get one of my books for a second?
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that I write in the beginning of all my books is this particular word, these words actually. And if you don't mind if I could read it.
No.
God is in here, Spirit is in here, love is in here, and they are all one and the same. So all of my books have that in the first part of the book because I think it's all one and the same.
Yes.
We live in a world where we have to define every little detail and we have to analyze every little detail. Maybe that beautiful brush against your shoulder is God.
That you feel, yeah, right.
Maybe that scent when you feel so anchored in your life is Spirit. Maybe that moment when that butterfly crosses your path, it's energy. Maybe it's all the same. Maybe it's all the same. Maybe it's all part of something.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
It is.
It's part of something.
Let's take a minute right now to show your books.
Great.
So that if anyone would like to get them, they can. The first one, if we can get a close, yeah, okay, there it is. 16 minutes, right? That's the
Yes.
first one. Read the rest of it.
It's 16 minutes. When one breath ends, another begins.
Okay.
And this book is about the loss of my mother
Oh.
and the excruciating feelings I went through. It's very raw. It's very emotional. I've also included a grief guidebook in the back
Oh,
to
good.
help people.
Good.
And my first book, though, is And Then There Was Heaven, A Journey of Hope and Love. And this book is a spiritual memoir. It's my journey and the experiences of
That's
my
nice.
life. And in the center of the book, if you don't mind, I'll share with you.
Sure.
The center of the book has blank pages, intentionally left blank, because when we printed all the thousands of copies of books, I went to the print house. I took my holy water.
Your holy water.
My holy water.
Don't tell anybody.
Took my oils. I took my oils and I was spritzing all the machines, you know. You can see that on YouTube. I was spritzing the machines. I was putting my hands on the papers, and I really thought, and I felt that if I did this, that when someone picks this book up, they might feel the same energy that I felt in that precise moment.
Wow.
That's why the pages are blank.
Oh.
So that when you touch it, and you hear it, and you feel it, you own it. So thank you for letting
Wow,
me share my books
that's
with
in-
you.
that's incredible.
That's great.
And the other thing that I think is so striking about your work is you know that love is everlasting. You know that we go on, and yet you talk about your mother's passing and how it's still in this 3D world, how it is so challenging
It
for
is.
people.
It
How
is
do people,
challenging.
How do you see how do you deal with that when you lose a loved one? How do you keep the light going? How do you stay connected?
We have to just keep talking. We have to keep sharing. We can't retreat in that moment. You may have to for a little while, but you have to share that, because grief becomes a globule of energy just stuck in there, and it needs love, and it needs reassurance, and it needs support, and that's what this book is about, and that's what we have to do for each other.
Yeah.
And we have to do that for each other.
Have someone to share it with.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And
share
you have that on your website, right? You have just references and places
Yeah.
people can go for
Yes.
when a loved one dies. Because you're referenced on my site, people call me and they're traumatized.
Yeah, they are traumatized. They are traumatized.
Another question that was asked is, will I go to hell? And does hell even exist?
Yeah, this is a heated question, loaded question. If there's good, there's bad. There's balance in things. Sometimes I think some of us are living it here. Sometimes I think it's pretty hellish here in that sense. Is hell fear? Is hell the negative energy that exists in our world? Is hell the young guy who's suffering with depression? You know, I think it's all of those things. I think it's everything that is unsettled and negative and overwhelming and critical. And so that's how I see it, actually. That's
Right.
how I feel it. So when I'm down and out, I think, well, I'm going through my challenging period, and I do what I do to work that experience out. That's a loaded question. You know, there are people who believe that, you know, if you don't go to church, you're going to hell.
Right.
And there's no other place for you.
Yeah.
In the world that I live in, if you live by compassion, if you live with loving kindness, if you live with reverence for humankind, then you will not make a mistake. May I say something about this?
Sure.
My mother said to me shortly before she died, and I've heard this several times from people, she said, you know, do you think because sometimes I was a bad person that I'm not going to make it to heaven? And I had a little talk with her. I remember another woman calling me and says, you know, my daughter is dying, but she went through some bad times with drugs, and someone told me recently that she's not going to get to heaven. I don't buy it. You do have to heal the stuff that needs to be healed. You don't pop up and, whoo, you're in this magnificent.
Right.
You got to work it out.
Right. There's places on the other side
Yeah,
to go
there's
to.
a healing place.
To learn.
You got to
Yeah,
work it out.
Yeah, before you get back.
So I tell people, let's work it out now. Maybe now you understand. I went to North Carolina to forgive my father, so I wouldn't have to carry that vibration or that energy any further. You know, the same thing applies here. That's as far as I can take the hell question.
Well, I could never believe in a God who would condemn his
can't.
children to
Can't.
an eternal pain, suffering thing. It just doesn't make any
It
sense
doesn't
to
make
me.
sense to me.
A parent wouldn't do it to his child. God would never do it to us who
it
knows
doesn't
love.
make sense to
right,
me.
it doesn't.
At all.
Plus, there's accounts with Anita Morjani, who wrote the book when she came back and she went to the light.
Yes.
And she certainly didn't, live a totally perfect life. And Eben Alexander, all these books that come out when people go, and it really is a lot of light and love. And yes, we have to go through whatever journeys, maybe things we didn't work out, but people seem pretty happy.
Yeah, I had a
when they
near-death
met-
experience, and the experience is extraordinary.
You did?
I did about 25 years ago.
You want to share it with us?
I would, sure, I would love to share it with
Okay.
you. I was at an event and I was doing a small venue, and there were 15, 18 people there. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I was slumped over. And my cousin, who was hosting this event, came to get me, came to check me out, and she said that my skin became very cold. And she related it to our deceased grandfather's dead skin of 15 years prior. And then I was gone. She tried to find a pulse. She tried to do something. And I saw this light. I saw this light that was radiant and fulfilling. I felt it call me. I felt it summon me. And I found myself just walking towards that. I felt like I was ascending and expanding and growing and getting closer to something. There was this beautiful and this very beautiful energy that said that we've been waiting for you. And they said, you're here, but we have something we need you to do. Oh wow, I can feel the energy right now.
Yeah, I did too. I just got
Yeah,
chilled
oh my God.
all over.
I know you have, right?
You know, I went through that doorway, I went to that place. They even sang a song to me. I know every word to the song. When you walk through the door, there are angels standing there. And they took my hand. And I said, well, I think I should stay now. And I was having this conversation, and I could see my grandmother waving to me across the way. And I could see people making their way through this beautiful dimension of energy. And there was light shining everywhere, and there was laughter and joy. There wasn't a place for Catholics, and there wasn't a place for Jewish people.
Right.
They were all in the same space at the same time. And then I heard him say, you have to go back now. I said, I can't.
Right.
I want to stay here. And I found myself coming back. You know what was the most profound moment? And I'm giving you the watered down version of this experience. But the most profound moment was when I saw myself coming back into my body. My cousin is doing this. I thought to myself, is Earth, is my life as beautiful as that place? And I came back into, I came back into my body, and I looked up, and I saw colors that I saw there. And I saw light in the faces of the people here. And I saw energy as I saw it there. And I understood in that moment that my mission was to tell you that love, the love that is there, is everywhere. And do you have the courage to see that light and that love? I understood that my mission, and I heard it clearly, was to tell you and every person I meet that love is everlasting. And of course, I've given you if I gave you the long version, I'd be sobbing and it'd be a mess, and you know, we'd have all kinds.
I'd love to hear it, but I don't want you to be sobbing and be
We'll
a
have to
mess.
save it for another day.
Oh,
another
yeah, I'd love
time
to hear it all.
and another story.
Roland, are you afraid of dying?
No,
Not at all, right?
no.
Because so
I'm
many
afraid of
people
one
are.
thing.
You know that's what people run from.
I'm not afraid at all. I'm afraid to leave my kid, my daughter, because I have an attachment to her.
Right.
It's the only thing I think about. If it's my
I know
time, it's
that.
my time. I have no qualms with that. I understand what's there. I have no fight in me about that. I only think of her.
Right.
That's all I think of. That's the humanness of who I am. You know, when people say you should release the attachment, it's my daughter, and I'm enjoying where I am with her.
No,
I'm not
I
going to
have
resist
that
or fight
too.
that experience.
So do I.
I have
My
that
daughter.
same thing. So when you do your groups, and I've been there, and the loved ones come in, is it frustrating for them that they want to be with their loved ones? You know, like there's a message, but like if you were there, like you can't like touch your daughter. Like how do you make sense of that?
You know, because that touch is defined by love. The look that we have here really is defined by love. So when we're standing together, sitting together, and making a connection, it's the energy of love that becomes the conduit of the message that allows someone to say whatever they need to say to bring peace. All the medium really does, all I do, is share with you that there's a possibility. That's it. From there, you make your decisions on what you believe or don't believe.
Right.
It's
That's
up
all
to
you can do.
That's all you can do. That's right. That's all we can really do.
A big question.
Yes.
What is God?
Ah. God is, you know what God is?
Um.
It's the sparkle in your eyes. Right here. God is in the solace of this room. God is that light that I feel when I look at my daughter. God is the memory I have of my mom and the joy that I had with her. God is the mountain that says no matter how hard it is, you can make it. God is that little challenge that takes you to the next level of your life path. God is the birds and the smiles and the joy and the light. It's everything. It's everything. God isn't up there, as I said. Oh, wow. You know what's happening right now? You're changing.
Really?
There's a peacefulness coming into you right now. There's an ease coming into you right now. You've been waiting for this moment somehow. You've been waiting to embrace this moment. This moment belongs to you. It belongs to you. And you know, my mission here with you, Rosemary, is to take you to that door, right? Khalil Gibran says that the teacher, all they are meant to do is to take you to the threshold of your own mind. You are here to receive. So your job is to allow whatever energy you're feeling to be present with you, because something's happening to you. There's a peacefulness flowing through you. You are being validated right now that you're fulfilling your destiny somehow, that you're fulfilling your mission. And I bet that somewhere inside of you, you've whispered a tiny little prayer to that spiritual light beyond and said, you know what? You said, hey, God, I need someone to tell me that it's going to be okay. This
Many times.
is your moment. This is your moment.
Thank you.
So take it and allow yourself to receive what it is for you, because it's beautiful. And you have an entourage of people with you, and there's a story about your mother, and there's a story about the angels, and there's a story about the light. But today, you get the stamp of approval that you are living your life purpose.
You don't know what that means to me. Or maybe you do.
You know why I heard that? Because you whispered it. Because you had the courage to say, come on, I need an answer. You know, if you're asking for something out there, just ask and then allow.
Allow.
You did. You allowed yourself to have this moment, and it's yours. We celebrate that moment with you. We celebrate it because, you know what, Rosemary? We see you for who you are. We see your light. We see how you shine right here, right now.
And you help so many. You help the people and the animals, and
those animals, you're crazy about them.
She really
You know
is.
that.
I've
You're
got
crazy
stories.
about them. It's part of your desire. It's part of your life journey. Somewhere along the line, it was inscribed somewhere on some document long before your journey. Oh, wow, that would bring you here. Do you realize that every single thing every single thing in your life has brought you to this moment of time? Everything.
Everything.
Everything. Everything you've wished for, prayed for, hoped for, have brought you here to this moment so that you could be the recipient of this divine, holy, sacred, special energy. That's what's happening to you.
And you're telling all these people how to be free and how to be in love, really, which was the message of what you were able to ask from Roland, which is very liberal. It's freedom.
You know, may I say something to the audience out there?
Sure.
If you have the courage to ask, if you have the courage to wish and to pray, then do it now. And once you do it, you've got to allow yourself to receive whatever it is you're searching for, whatever it is you're asking for. And when those little signs and signals come, be in a state of gratitude, deep gratitude for having that moment. Thanks for letting me share that.
Oh, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
When people like Rosemary or me there are challenges, death, sickness, whatever. Is that part of the plan? Is that God? And how do we keep the light going when we're in physical pain, when we lose a child?
It's tough. It's tough because we're attached to all these things. We become attached to the suffering. What happens is the suffering becomes more familiar than the love.
Yes.
And then we attach to the suffering.
It's true.
No, I'm not a person that's lost a child. I have no idea that feeling. I talked to a guy yesterday on my radio show who lost 3 people in his life. 2 of them were his children and his wife.
Oh my God.
And he said that he figured out how to live that new life. I'm telling you that we get stuck in a place of attaching all our energy to our suffering and our pain. Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual pain. And that pain, that energy becomes familiar. And then we take ownership of that. And that becomes who we are in that moment. I'm telling you that if you start to nurture that, right, love that, that energy begins to disappear.
You mean like love? So if you're in pain and you have cancer and you love the experience of
And
it,
try to understand it. Try to come to understand the spiritual experience.
right?
There's a lot of things I could say about this, really. You know, again, I've had my own battles. I've fought my own things. And I understand that when I fought them, if something was suffering or painful, I became that. It became heavy and unsettled. I became that. Roland, the guy, the light, the whatever,
Right.
disappeared.
Right.
And the only thing that existed was that suffering. So we owned that suffering, but I believe that suffering came to me to teach me a lesson, to show me maybe my courage, maybe to remind me of my humanness, maybe to remind me of my spark of divinity, maybe to remind me of something. Maybe that came for a reason. Maybe you had your experience for a reason. And if it was, what was it?
Right. Even if it leads to death, it's all a learning
Right.
opportunity,
Absolutely.
really.
Absolutely.
And a reflection of something that we need to learn or grow. And
Absolutely.
I believe that.
Absolutely.
I think we really all know how to suffer. We know
Yes.
that well.
Yes.
It's like pulling this shroud around you, and you know
Yes.
you feel safe.
Yep.
But I don't think we know how to not suffer, to be happy, to accept,
No.
to be loved, to
No,
feel,
no.
to be free.
And the ego says, "Oh, don't you love that?" Mm-hmm. Right? It tells you, "Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it?" And you become familiar and you own that energy instead of what's beneath that, which
But
is
even
love.
but knowing that you suffered when your mother passed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell me about the
sure.
human part. Like, so you know that. You
So
know
I
this more than
cried.
anyone.
I cried.
You cried, but you tried to not go into and become the suffering, right?
You
tried
read
to-
my book, you'll know that I cried every single day.
Okay.
I was a 50-year-old kid, losing the one person because my father left, she was the only one. It was my sister and I, just the 3 of us. And when she passed away, I understood the severity of what grief feels like. And instead of I honored the suffering. I respected the suffering. I understood the suffering. And then I said, I appreciate the lessons you've taught me, but I have to love the suffering. And
That's the
everything
message.
changed.
yeah, you do.
And everything changed.
Love the suffering, meaning actually feel gratitude
Yes,
for
to
the
learn from it.
experience, to learn from
To
it, and the
learn,
feeling of it.
to grow.
This is such a big concept, which would really help so many people, include it's helped me, and I'm still learning it, to go through the dark times that are here. It's
They
looking in the
are.
bed. They're here on this planet. We're not going to escape it ever.
No.
Right?
It's part of the
Death,
human
sickness,
experience.
well,
Yeah.
turn on the news.
Part
It
of
is.
how we learn.
So it's, I guess, the focus of trying to focus on the positive and the lessons.
And
And the
that
love.
that process is an everyday experience. You know, you can't say, "Oh, I'm going to take a week off from the love stuff. I'll get back to you." By the time a week comes, you're done. You're drained. You're exhausted. So it requires your effort. The critics of me say I'm a little too lovey-dovey about things. The answer is love. Self-love, loving your neighbor, loving the universe, loving humankind. It is about love.
It's all about love.
It's
That's all
always
it is.
about
service.
love.
Service
and
is
to being
love.
of service. It's all part. It's all tied together in a very powerful way, in a very beautiful
They say
way.
everything that you do is either a giving of love or a cry for love.
Yes. Oh, wow. Yes. It is. Aren't we all a reflection for each other?
Yeah, we are.
Right? You know, your whatever chaotic things or joyful things you're experiencing, what you reflect is what I need. Is what I need. I've sat in front of thousands of people in my years doing the work I do. Every time someone sat there, I needed exactly what they brought to that table. I needed to hear it, to feel it, to see it.
But
All
Roland,
those times.
I've seen people come time and time again, they're desperate, they're depressed, and they see you and they feel better. So sometimes you can't get it on your own.
Right.
You know, it's hard, and when
Right.
you're depressed, what else can you do? You can pray, you
Seek support.
seek
Go for
support.
help. Talk to someone. Talk to a medium. It's okay to talk to a medium. It's okay to talk to a priest. It's okay to talk to a counselor. It's okay to talk to a spiritual somebody or another.
Connect.
It's okay. It's okay to do those things. I'm not saying you should depend on those things, but you need those aspects, those people really, to help you take that next step.
Yeah, right.
So we can't clone you. The cloning thing is off.
It's off.
Ah, darn.
It's off.
I think God, if you ask, will lead you to the right person.
Yeah, always.
Help
I
you,
think
right?
you're right. I think that goes back to the asking and the praying, and
Yeah.
then it's miraculous what happens. It really is. If you sit back, and then the really important thing you said is, and allow.
Allow.
And
Just
get
be.
the ego out of the way, because if we're trying to control it, well, there's not a lot of chance for spirit to come in if our ego is running the show.
Just be. Just be there, you know? Be here. Be right here, right now. You know, instead of, okay, I got to get the shopping list, and I got to take the dog, and I got to drive another hour and a half. Just be here. Simple. Simplicity. Be here right now.
We've got about 5 minutes left.
Wow.
I wish we had another hour. I really do. So one of the questions were, in this time of upheaval and tragedies, how do we stay focused on the light, and how do we stay connected to the source, which is the light and love? As you always say, everlasting love.
I know that we turn on the TV and the whole world is going crazy. And you have such empathy. You have sadness. You have grief. You're in a state of shock about what you see. But there is a power in you. There's a light in you that, again, if you own that fear, only fear will come. If you stay in the light will shine. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep working it out, but you can. I've seen it. You might not be able to change what's happening there. You may not be able to, but you might be able to ground the energy and to become a channel for that energy. I've seen it 1,000 times. After 9/11, I gathered 50 people at my healing center in Rhode Island. We all sat there at 9 o'clock. The towers went down that morning. I summoned 50 people to this room. My mother had driven there. She'd never driven anywhere. Friends had come. We sat in this room. We held hands. We couldn't change anything, but what we could do is we could hold that energy of divine love. We could hold that space, and that space became bigger and stronger. It became this light that moved through time and space. The power is in you. It's in you to be a force of love, a force of light. It's in you.
It's true. God created us in His Spirit,
Yes.
and we do have that power. People only knew that. You're so absolutely right.
But because somebody took that power away. Someone said to you, no, you can't. Someone said, oh, no, you're not wearing the right clothes
yeah.
to do that. I'm telling you, take your power back. Be reverent, be human, be kind, be loving, be compassionate, and the world that you live in will be extraordinary. Will be extraordinary.
That's right.
I agree. So we should say, I am light, I am
Yes.
love.
Amen, alleluia, namaste, om shanti, I love you,
I
and all those
love
beautiful
you.
things. That's what I say
Absolutely.
every single day.
That's so true.
Every single day.
Oh, we could only be like that. What's that song? What the world needs now
Yes.
is love, sweet love, right?
It is what we need.
Everybody sing.
It is what we need.
But it's true.
It
People
is.
only realize the power that they have
Yep.
to send that light and that love, to,
Yes.
even to send them to places where there's problems and everything,
Yep.
right?
The other day, Deepak had a whole thing, a universal thing. Hundreds of thousands of people all sent
Yes.
love out.
Yep.
So
We
It's
have
powerful.
2 minutes. Is there
2
any
minutes.
thought you'd like to leave with our viewers for the last 2 minutes?
Yes, I
You've said
would-
so much, but
I would like to say, just take a moment for yourself. You deserve it. Maybe you are like many others going through a lot of things and the road is heavy and things are overwhelmed. But just take a moment. Take care of yourself. Take care of your spirit, and you will be loved and guided and supported. I think that when you're strong, you can take care of all the things around you. So be gentle, be loving, be kind, be compassionate, and watch your world change. And watch your world change, because it will be magnificent.
so true.
amen.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Namaste. Om Shanti. I love you. And all those beautiful things.
See, all of the above.
Yeah, get them all in. Get them
Hallelujah.
all in. Get them all in.
Oh, that's so true. Okay, well, we're down to 1 minute, and
1 minute.
all I can say is that, as always, it's extraordinary to have you here.
Thank you.
We love you.
Thank
I wish
you.
you could have you here more, and I know how busy you are, and you took time out of your busy schedule
Thank
to
you.
come and share with our people,
I appreciate it.
and that's wonderful.
Let's give them 10 seconds out there. 10 seconds of silence.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
10 seconds of silence. Ready? Go. And just breathe. And just be here. And just be peaceful. And just be love. Because that's who you are. That's who you are. That's what you are. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We love you.
Thank you. And with that, we'll close now, and we'll give Roland's information. To contact Roland Comtois, it's 401-647-4446. And his, is that your website?
Yep.
Is R. Comtois Jr. at msn.com. And the other one is www.blessingsbyroland.com. And if you miss any of this, you can see it on Facebook. It'll be posted. To learn more information about this show or any of our past shows, please contact us at healoutsidethebox@yahoo.com, or to reach me, Rosemary Lachance. My phone number is 203-627-7966. My website is www.rosemarylachance.com. Do you want to read yours?
Sure. Barbara Slaine. My email is lifebalancecenter@gmail, LIPHE balancecenter@gmail.com. And also the new website where Roland is actually featured this month is www.myhealingrooms.com.
And we're also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box.
Thank you.
And now I have 2 quotes for you tonight. One of them I thought would be a little funny. It says, "You can safely assume you've created God in your own image when he turns out that God hates all the people that you do." And that's by Anne Lamott. And this quote is, "I believe in God, but not as one thing, not as an old man in the sky. I believe that what people call God is something in all of us. I believe that what Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and all the rest said was right. It's just that the translations have gone wrong." And that's by John Lennon.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you,
Thank you so much. Lots
So
of love. Thank
beautiful.
you. Thanks so much.
Love you.
Rosemary.
Okay.
Lots of love.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody. Take care. Mwah.
Feel your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hand. Feel the comfort flow inside you.